Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of eCoffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's show, I have with me Dan McGaw. Dan is an award-winning entrepreneur and speaker. He is also the founder and CEO of McGaw.io, a marketing, technology, and analytics agency, and the creator of UTM.io. Named one of the godfathers of marketing technology stacks, as well as one of the original growth hackers, Dan has decades of experience in digital marketing, technology, and analytics. He led the teams at KissMetrics.com and ColdSchool.com, taking the latter company from $80,000 in monthly recurring revenue to $400,000 in monthly recurring revenue in just over a year. In 2015, he was selected to be a United States Ambassador of Entrepreneurship by the United States Department of State, where he had the privilege to advise government, universities, and private corporations on how to build entrepreneurial ecosystems. When he isn't helping companies increase revenue and accelerate growth, he can be found doing laundry for his 3 children. Dan, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, man. Great to be here as well. I appreciate that.
Yeah, right on. So, hey, Dan, how would your high school teachers describe you as a student?
Wow, what a great question. Best question I've been asked on a podcast, I think, ever. What would my high school teachers describe me as? A badass. Would probably be the first one. Somebody who didn't give a shit about class would be the second one. Okay. I was running my own company. I was an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
Back then, an entrepreneur was not a good thing.
Interesting.
But they would probably say unique and an enigma. I'm as good as I am bad in some cases. I was always known as the really, really smart kid who just wasn't willing to apply myself because I was doing other things.
Were you bored with school? Were you bored? Was it boring?
Oh, yeah. I was bored with school from fourth grade and on. School was boring. I don't like structure in that way where it's like, sit down, we have to teach you this thing. And so no, I don't even have a high school diploma. Most people don't know that. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I did not know that.
I have a rainbow diploma. It's like, I don't consider it a diploma because it's more of like a GED. But no, I don't. I didn't walk down the aisle, didn't get a commencement cap, anything like that.
Oh, wow. Well, you've done pretty well for yourself. Well, you've done pretty well. Well, we can edit this part out if you want. I mean,
no, it's 100% me. It's just what I tell people all the time. People always are like, "Oh, you're so smart," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I don't even. I didn't even graduate high school." Mark Zuckerberg at least waited until he got to college to drop out. I dropped out in high school because I was doing business.
Yeah.
So no, that's a fine. It's
interesting. It's interesting. Like, I don't really know. Like, for instance, if you compared who I was in high school, I was very similar. I wasn't a badass, but I was bored of school, and I didn't focus, and I couldn't focus. And about 4 months ago, I was diagnosed with ADD late in my life. I'm 46, and it explains a lot, and explains why I was bored in school and couldn't focus. And I felt like the teachers were teaching at a turtle's pace, and my brain was operating at a rabbit's pace. And anyway, so I wish they had done something different. But
they're the weird ones. We're the good ones. They're the weird ones. The people who don't have the racing thought. Like, come on, I'll finish your sentence with no problem. So
I have to be careful not to do that.
Right?
But yeah. So this is fascinating. Like, so you didn't graduate high school, but what inspired you to pursue a career in digital marketing? Like, how did you get hired by KissMetrics, or what was the first
my first company I started when I was 13. So I was 13 years old, and my good friend took me to a rave. And I went to the rave, and I was like, this is the best stuff ever. And I fell in love with rave music. So I got into techno music really early, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I fell in love with EDM, and then I tried to start a record label. And I come to find out a record label is is a bank, and I was too young, could start a bank at 13, 14 years old. So I turned that into a booking agency, and then I found out that a booking agency did phone calls or had connections, and I couldn't do that. So I built online bulletin board and forums, tried to get that way so my artists would get represented. And that was the original social media, right? Back in 97, 98, 99 was bulletin boards and forums. That's how I got into digital marketing. Back then, it wasn't really digital marketing, but I was doing mass email since before there was mass email. That's one of my things.
Wow.
But to fast forward nearly 15 years later to Kissmetrics, how did I wind up at Kissmetrics? The way that I wound up at Kissmetrics is amazing. So I fired Kissmetrics as my vendor. And I hit it off with the team at Kissmetrics when I was ending our contract. I was canceling our account. I was the VP of growth at Code School. And I met Rossi Kong and Nemo Chu during that process. Some of the nicest guys I've ever met. Some great people to work with. And during that process, they started to recruit me. And they spent the next 9 months recruiting me for various positions until I turned them down. No. And then finally, they gave me everything I wanted. And then I took Neil's job. I took Neil Patel's job at Kissmetrics. And I was like, mind blown that is how it worked out. But that's how I wound up at Kissmetrics. Is I ended our contract with them as our analytics vendor at another company.
That's fascinating. Now, did Neil retire or did he move on?
No, he moved on. He kept his VP title. But on my first day, Neil was like, "Hey, you're in. I'm out. Here's the board deck. Good luck. I'll be around for another 30 days." And then he went and did what Neil does, which is make money in every other way possible. I mean, he's a born hustler. He doesn't run his companies. He has other people who run his companies, and that's what I was. I was brought in to get him out, and I was very successful in that. So he took off.
Well, that's amazing. What an amazing story. How did your experience as at Kissmetrics help you develop as a digital marketer and entrepreneur?
You know, I think the biggest thing that I took away, Kissmetrics, I learned a lot about team management and team leadership. It was the largest team that I had run in a marketing team to that point. So I went from running a team of basically 4 or 5 marketers to then running a team of 10 marketers. So I learned a lot about that and team management. But one of the things that I learned about digital marketing, which I think a lot of people don't, which I was already good at, but it really leaned in on, is that digital marketing has a lot to do with management and project management. And I became extremely effective at project managing digital marketing there, and realized my process to doing it was very effective. So a lot of people don't have rhythm in regards to their planning, and I'm very monthly, quarterly planning. So I got very organized there. But in regards to digital marketing, like if I had to say like the thing from digital marketing that I really learned, I got good at content marketing there. I learned the content game. I mean, when you have Neil Patel as your mentor for content marketing, and when you're like, what the hell do I do? And Neil's like, this is the playbook. Shut up and take it. You learn it pretty quickly. And then, I'm super grateful. Sean Work, who was our head of content, he taught me a lot about content marketing. I learned a lot of stuff about that. I made a lot of mistakes, which was great. But I would say content marketing is what I really took away from there.
All right on. So would you say that one of the weaknesses, I think it is what you said, one of the weaknesses of people executing digital marketing is not having, standard operating SOPs, like structured execution paths for getting things done? Would that be a correct assessment?
I don't know if I would say standard operating procedures, because I think a lot of stuff in marketing is still very creative. I don't know if necessarily SOP, like how do you launch a Facebook ad?
Okay.
But I think time management and project management and making sure that you give yourself a limited period of time to be able to accomplish the task, and as well as managing that across a wide variety of channels or tactics. I don't think people do a good enough job in managing that. They kind of let it manage them, and then they don't focus, okay, if I don't get a good result by this date at this time, okay, great, I'm going to move on to do this next. So that's more so what I mean.
Absolutely. Hey, so what eventually was the turning point for you leaving Kissmetrics and in your journey of starting your own analytics growth agency, which used to be called FN Amazing?
Which that name was so much better. So they're not mutually connected necessarily. So I left Kissmetrics because I was frustrated with the product. I had come to Kissmetrics because I had ended our relationship because the product sucked. We were moving from Kissmetrics and moving to Mixpanel, and that was because the data, the way that Kissmetrics stored data, which they've done a great job over the last 8 years to finally make it not store data in that way, but when I was headed to Kissmetrics, the data structure was really bad. And then there was a lot of fundamental problems in the product. And then if you were an advanced marketer like I was, you would get to a certain place where you were reporting on your attribution and reporting on things and feel that it's the truth. And then all of a sudden you would notice it was not true and it was not correct. And then it was like this hidden bug that nobody would ever tell you. And it was like, oh my God, this is not okay. So I ended up going there and then saying, hey, listen, like this, we've got to fix this. And this is part of the reasons why I'm willing to do this. And unfortunately, a year after that, those things weren't fixed. So I started being an asshole about a bunch of different things, and it was like, I want out. So I got myself out of the company, and then I ran another venture-backed startup at the same time as working at Kissmetrics. I was running a funded startup. When I left Kissmetrics, my investors gave me more money to focus on that full time. I did that, but I didn't make enough money to eat more than ramen. And I was married. I had 2 kids, about to have my third. My wife said, hey, listen, you need to make more money for Christmas. What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, consulting, and I'll do 10 hours a week. And that was November 2014. And by December 2014, I had already been fooled up with consulting, but I had a $25,000 a month deal come to my. In December 2014, though, I had a $25,000 a month client come to me, and I was like, well, maybe I should do this as a real business. So in January of 2015, we decided to start a company. We didn't even have a company name until March of 2015. So it was just a fluke. I never meant to start this company. It was 100% an accident. So much so, I've never once named this company. The first name, somebody else jokingly said it, and I was like, that's perfect. And then McGaw.io, I fought the team for a year on calling it McGaw, and the team finally won. And I'm the only thing on the name is .io, and it's because I'm too poor to be able to afford .com. Because it's $425,000 for my last name .com. So I've never named this company. It's super random. The only thing I chose was the tech stack.
Wow. So your whole entire agency came as a result of a consulting gig and doing a part-time, while running a business full-time, doing a part-time consultancy and getting a pretty huge.
Too.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Thanks, bud.
So, but you've always been a hustler, it sounds like it. So you actually, so
always.
How is the name of? I mean, when I first saw your company, when it came into my purview, F an Amazing Age, I thought that is so bloody brilliant. And the way you spelt it and everything, I thought it was very smart. But obviously, you changed the name. Mm-hmm. How has the company been received since the name change, and why was the name change? Was it just? Did the market just find it too offensive? Was it in that regard?
Yeah, so the market definitely found it too offensive. There'd been multiple times we have partners that we work with, big companies who like had issues with the name when introducing us to clients. So it's always a concern. So we decided, I mean, it took us 5 years to change the name, or to make the decision we should change it. And then it took us a year to figure out a new name. But we changed it in May of 2020 to McGaw. That's our LLC. The domain is .io, so everybody knows this is McGaw.io. But yeah, there was definitely a little bit of pushback, but all of our customers who worked with us loved it. All of our customers who worked with us saw it. At the end of the day, if you're a customer who works with me and you experience my energy, which I'm pretty chill right now. Sorry, it's been a long day. But people, when you're around my energy and as well as my profanity, I'm going to fucking swear whether you like it or not. It really worked for us. So we still own the domain. So if you go to Effin Amazing, EFFIN amazing.com, it forwards to us. I will never drop that domain. I will launch another company one day called Effin Amazing. I don't know what it will be yet. First, I've got to get my bagel shop off the ground, and then I'll come back to Effin Amazing. So the bagel shop is next.
Amazing Bagels or Effin Amazing Bagel. I don't know.
I own bagelbar.com. So I bought that for
that is so
$4,000. But Bagel Bar is our concept. I'm not going to tell anybody anything more than that. So.
No, don't. That's cool. Hey, how did you feel when you were notified of your appointment as the Federal Ambassador of Entrepreneurship by the U.S. government? I mean, that's pretty cool, man.
It was a smack in the face.
Like
it was like, what?
Especially since you've revealed that you didn't finish high school. And just, I don't know if I said this, but my high school marks, I might as well not have graduated either. So, but anyway, could you expand on that? How did it feel? It was like a smack in the face. It must have been pretty amazing.
I was blown away. I had no idea. So yeah, no, it was definitely really interesting and really cool. And it was a lot of fun. I think most people don't understand this, but Mexico is more entrepreneur than us as America, because in Mexico, it's very small business. They don't have technology or large corporations in the same manner that we do everywhere. So everybody either owns a taco shop or owns a mechanic garage or owns a lot of different things. There's a lot of really, really small local entrepreneurs, and they struggle to do anything more, anything bigger, because they don't want to fail. And failure is a huge problem with their culture. And that was something that I was able to come speak about because I've failed a lot. Luckily I'm not embarrassed by it, but that's a huge. They don't have access to technology like we do. They don't have access to the same innovation that we do. And then the mindset is like, hey, listen, I'm going to take over my pop's taco shop, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but they're trying to stir more innovation. So it was really surprising when I got the invite to come down and speak in Tijuana and Mexicali. It was really cool.
That's amazing. So what are your thoughts on the role of entrepreneurship in the United States economy?
I mean, I think it's a humongous part. I think it's something that I think has been stifled by corporations, unfortunately. But I think entrepreneurship is a huge part of any economy. I mean, I think entrepreneurship is where innovation comes from. I think it's where jobs come from. So I think it's a huge part. But I also think that entrepreneurship sucks. I mean, there's no easy way to say that. I mean, being an entrepreneur is really effing hard. So I just don't think I don't think it's something everybody wants to go into.
No, I mean, we need people who are leaders and people who are followers, and not everybody can be a leader and have the fortitude and everything that it takes to be an entrepreneur. It's interesting. Robert Kiyosaki was saying we need more entrepreneurs and more business leaders at a recent Patrick Bet-David conference for Valuetainment, and I kind of agree with him. But you're right, it is hard. I've I've failed so many times. I don't even want to talk about it right now, but maybe some other day. And that's not about me anyway. But what do you think is the most important thing for entrepreneurs to know then? Like, what words of encouragement would you give to some maybe agency owners who are just finding the grind really tough right now? And
don't fucking quit. That's it. That's the only thing entrepreneurs need to focus on is don't quit.
Don't quit.
So I mean, there's a famous quote in the book by Ben Horowitz, Hard Things About Hard Things. And the entrepreneur that comes in and talks about how it was their winning strategy which got them there is the one that they don't fund. But the one that comes in and they're like, what got you here? And they're like, I just didn't quit. Those are the entrepreneurs that ultimately are the ones that they fund at A16. And that's true. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody wants to say you were an overnight success, but I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was working on Facebook for close to 10 years before it was mainstream.
I didn't know that.
So Amazon's been around for over 20 years before most Americans had a clue what it was. Starbucks was around for almost 30 years before it became massive. It takes a long time to do this. So at the end of the day, it's really not until year 5 that you start to get compounding interest, as it's called. There's a great book called The Compound Effect. And it's really not until year 5 you usually hit the kind of like entrepreneur compounding effect. And then year 10 is usually when most entrepreneurs really get the compounding effect, because you learn most of your mistakes. I think it's kind of like the mentality of it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert at something. Well, every year you're putting 10,000 hours into one part of the business where you become an expert, but it takes you 10 years. So 100,000 hours to finally understand how to grow that thing. Don't get me wrong, not everybody does. And there's always going to be flukes of people who are rocket ships and things like that. Right place, right time. Business owners who have done it before. Like if you look at Drift, Dave Cancel, this isn't his first rodeo, right? Like it's so you got to keep working your ass off.
Yeah. Well, there's a book by John Maxwell called Failing Forward, and where he talks about you just fail forward. Don't look at failure as a bad thing, but look at it as something you continuously learn from and move forward on. Is that based on what I've just heard you say? Would you agree with that sentiment?
I fail all the time. I put my neck out in places that I probably shouldn't have. My head's been cut off more than once.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. What do you think is one of the? Would you be willing to share one of the failures you've experienced and the lesson you learned from it?
In entrepreneurship or just failures in general?
No, in entrepreneurship.
So I think that the biggest failure that I made, so I owned a mobile app company, and one of the things that happens when you take on money from investors is you listen to them. And this is a mistake that I made as an immature entrepreneur and a green entrepreneur. And I listened to their advice a little too much. And one of the things that I was very confident about is we had a geolocation mobile app that helped you find gas stations and deals at gas stations. So for us to be able to build propensity, we needed to build density in a city, in a region. So like in Orlando where I live, I was like, we need to focus all of our effort on businesses here in Orlando. And my investors like, no, you got to go nationwide. You got to go big. You got to like do all these things. And I'm like, and so either way, I listened to my investor, and we wound up being one of the number one reasons why we went out of business is because we could not build any propensity in any one region. So we couldn't get enough users in a location to keep our gas prices up to date, to then have enough deals. We tried to run some nationwide deals, but because of that, we ended up running out of cash, and we had to, I sold the company to my co-founder, and the company went out of business, but we failed because we should have focused on local compared to trying to be national. So, that company failed, but I mean, they've all failed. So the only one that hasn't failed yet is McGaw. So all the other ones are gone. I mean, isn't that the definition of a failure? The company's gone.
Well, maybe, or maybe you learn life lessons from it. Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing. It's like that's why I don't like the concept of a failure, because it's a life lesson. Yeah. So like they all had great learning experiences.
Yeah. What about UTM.io though? Isn't that still going?
Yeah, UTM.io is doing great. We just hired another full-time person last week. We're about to hire another one next week. UTM's doing great, man. I'm super excited for that one.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal. What was your inspiration for launching that platform?
We created a free product. So at Effin' Amazing, we had a problem with our clients never making the correct UTM codes for their campaign links. So we built a free Chrome extension. And that free Chrome extension, we put it out in the wild, and next thing I know, we had 10,000 users over a 2-year period, and it was bringing hundreds of leads a month. And then one of my employees owned UTM.io, and I was like, well, listen, I'll make you my co-founder, and I'll buy the domain from you, and you can help me grow it. So Hussein, who's still a part of the cap table, is my co-founder in that company. He's no longer in the company, but... we turned it into UTM.io, and now our clients, I mean, we just closed Google. Shopify's a customer. Zapier's a customer. Robert Half Technology, Henkel's Knives. I mean, big companies are our customers, which is I'm super grateful for all the luck that we've had over there. So it's been cool.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing platform. I became a customer a long time ago, so I've even interacted with your team, and they've I've been on one-on-one sessions with some of your team members helping me to configure things and figure things out. It's been a lot of fun, and I would recommend every single agency owner go sign up for UTM.io right now, because you need to use it for your clients for attribution. I mean, I know we're coming to I know that your time is limited, and I really want to appreciate you coming on today. It's been an absolute blast. There's so many other things that I wanted to talk to you about in that regard, in regards to UTMs and best practices. I see so many people. I see big companies, Dan, doing UTMs wrong. Now, what do I mean by wrong? What I mean by wrong is the way that I have learned from you through your blog posts and your tutorials and the things that you teach. And I'm like for instance, they're using like in the campaign source, instead of using the name of the platform like Salesforce, they'll use newsletter, or they'll use something that's totally doesn't. Or they won't use all. They won't. Maybe they're forcing the letter case in analytics with a filter, but they'll use like uppercase and lowercase instead of all lowercase in regards to the parameters. And I just see them doing it wrong so many times. Do you think that we'll ever get to a point where, like, why is that though? Why is it that people who I think should be sophisticated marketers are making really stupid, simplistic mistakes? I don't know if there's even an answer for that, but just blows my mind.
I know the reason. And just so you know, I can run over 10 minutes, so I have until the hour.
Okay.
So the number one reason why you see those mistakes, especially when you see those big companies, is because the big company is big, but the people that work inside of them are typically pretty inexperienced or green when it comes down to making these campaign codes. And at the end of the day, the campaign codes are not always that easy. I mean, there's what Google advises you to do, like you have your set mediums, you have your set sources and things like that.
Yeah.
But understanding that that taxonomy or schema is not always something that we learn in school. It's not something you learn in college. It's something you have to learn by doing research. It's not something that they teach you in a textbook. So a lot of people just don't understand the formality of it. And that was the whole reason why we ended up building UTM.io and why it's been pretty successful is people are always searching what is a UTM. People are always searching UTM Builder. And in our product, one of the things that we try to do is make it so that we have a rules engine in our paid plan. So like as an example, you talk about Shopify as an example, one of our big users. They've got 100 different users in the account, and they're able to control what rules are set up, so what users select. There's a groupings engine. So, but it's just not something that's taught in school. I mean, I guess funny pop quiz. Can you tell me what UTM stands for?
Urgent Tracking. I can't remember the other thing, but I haven't committed it to memory. But module, yes. Urgent Tracking Module.
Bonus points in your quiz because you just aced your quiz. Bonus points in your quiz. What's Urchin?
Well, it was the company that used to be Google Analytics. They started Google Analytics.
You've been around a long time, Matt. I like it. Good job. You know what it is.
Yeah.
you crush it, dude. Almost nobody knows that answer, so you know you're an OG if you know what Urchin and UTM stands for. And Urchin is the thing in the sea that sticks out and touches everything, and that's what Urchin did. So tracked all the little things out there.
Yeah. Well, I started using it because I was at the car dealership and the sales manager was trying to get me fired because they didn't think I knew what I was doing.
What a punk.
And I actually got one of them fired indirectly because I revealed that he was not doing his job. I won't go into the details of it because it wouldn't be professional. But I had to learn attribution and your platform and your articles and all those things to be quite frank with you, helped me a lot.
Oh, I'm happy to be helpful.
With regards to Facebook ads and like I took this dealership, not to toot too much, but like from the second worst dealership in Western Canada to number one. And I had to learn because I remember when the general sales manager pulled me into his office and said, what you're doing isn't working. I said, well, how do you know? He said, well, because they're not selling any cars. And I quickly learned right then and there that a marketing person can do their job 100%. And sales, excuse my French, can totally shit the bed and not do their jobs. And so I knew from looking at the CRM, that was an industry dealer specific CRM, that they weren't following up with the leads. And so I quickly started to implement UTM parameters on all my campaigns, including Google Analytics, and using your tutorials and Facebook ads and everything that I was doing, implemented call tracking, implemented proper KPIs. I could go into it and talk about it for an hour, but I won't. But anyway, the only point I'm trying to make is that I learned from that's why I invested in UTM for what I was doing at the time, and your materials helped me a lot. So I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, and I was able to show and prove that what I was doing was working. And then within the sales department wasn't the problem with what I was doing. So, so that being said, I think maybe I'll ask you a question then. One more minute. Sorry. What are some common UTM link building mistakes to avoid for better attribution?
Common link building mistakes to avoid.
Like for instance, I mentioned two of them, I guess. The people using wrong letter case and using wrong source parameters and mixing those things up in regards to, putting email in the source or in the medium, mixing those things up. Are there common things you see people doing that screw up their attribution?
I mean, I think the biggest things that we see is people don't understand the difference. I mean, you named like the most popular ones, right? That people are talking about. So definitely big. I think the next biggest thing that we typically see people do is there's a concept known as hybrid tagging. So one of the problems is when you're using Google Ads, Google Ads has their automated tagging, aka Google Ads auto tagging. Auto tagging only works with Google Analytics. It does not work with any other platform. So people tend to forget. They're like, oh, I just turn on Google auto tagging. I don't need anything else. Yep. But the problem is that if you really want to get your campaign information into other tools, so whether it be analytics tools, marketing automation, whatever it be, you need to use hybrid tagging. So turn on Google auto tagging, but also add your tracking template on top of that, because you're still going to want to make sure that if you have Marketo or HubSpot or MailChimp and you're using a hidden field to store those variables, you still want to know what keyword, you still want to know all that thing. So I think that's the next biggest one that we see is not using hybrid tagging. If you're to just Google like auto tagging versus UTM tagging, we should be like the number one first result. But hybrid tagging is definitely the route that you want to go. Yeah.
And I learned that from you, and I went that route when I was at the dealership in regards to tagging and using hybrid tagging. And I was like, I went so far. So I don't know if this is right or not, because nobody taught me this. So maybe you can help me, even though it may not matter because of GA4. But I went so far as to create a separate Google Ads view. So I created a view based on, I can't remember his name, but he owns OptimizeSmart.com. And he talked about how you should have a different view for every channel or medium, whatever. Like one for Facebook ads, one for a target market view. So I set up a target market view. But I had a specific view for Google Ads because some of the goals that I was tracking were only specific to Google Ads. So I wanted the Google Ads campaign and the Google Analytics view for that specific Google Ads to be talking to one another only for those things. And I set up hybrid tagging.
Yeah.
And to this day, no one has told me, yeah, Matt, what you did was right. I just did it. So I have no idea.
Matt, what you did was right. I'm on your side on that one. You did the
there
right
you go.
thing.
Okay, good. I did the right thing. That's interesting. A lot about marketing, you just, I don't know, you can learn from other people, but sometimes you just have to use your brain and think. Would you agree?
I would agree. A lot of marketing is simply common sense. It's not rocket science. And that's, I think, the thing that I've learned most, I think, in marketing over the years is that, like, I used to be kitschy. I used to try to be cool and creative, and really it's like just be dumb and simple. Like, there's a great book out there called Words That Work, which is all about, it's an amazing book that's written by a Republican strategist about like what words work. And at the end of the day, people like short sentences without commas, right? Just know that. Short sentences without commas. That's what we understand. That's what marketing is. Short sentences, no commas.
Without commas. Wow. Do you think, Dan, that UTM parameters can be used for offline tracking? Now, I'll give you, for instance.
I was like if someone has a...
Okay. I was going to say like a billboard, and someone uses a vanity or a domain name to forward that domain name to the UTM parameters.
Absolutely, man. NJMinsurance.com. It's one of our clients. So I was like, all of your billboards should have vanity metrics. NJMloves.com, NJMinsurance.com, NJMauto.com. I was like, and just put parameters on it. Like, put a redirect on it. If you go to anybody listening, if you look up stackcourse.io or stackbuilder.com, all of these are just vanity metrics that we have. Some of them load up different parameters. Some of them don't load up anything. I think if you go, vanity. I own a few hundred domains because many of them are just vanity domains. Stack Builder, I think, was one of my favorite ones to buy. I think I paid like $4,500 for that. And all it does, if you go to stackbuilder.com, it will take you to our Stack Builder, which is down today, by the way. There's a bug that I have not told the developers about, so don't go there now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Go there later.
Go there later. By the time this goes live, it'll be fixed.
Yeah, I'll be totally fine by there.
Yeah, right on. Oh, that's so awesome. It's just some of these questions I wanted to ask because I didn't know if I was out to lunch or not. So here's an interesting thing. So for instance, when using a CRM and tracking, like I use marketing automation software, as do you. And when I was sending the email, the boss thought that the email was just typing something up in Gmail and sending it out. But can you share an example of how you'd use UTM tracking in the CRM? For instance, should you use like different parameters in the content for the different links that are like a body link or a footer link or a like let's say there's 2 links in the body, link 1, link 2, or is there other naming conventions that are best practices that you've used over the years?
Yeah, so the way that I think about it is the term is the keyword or the language that's being used, right? And then the content is the visual description or placement of the item. And at the end of the day, like the thing I always try to tell people is you just need to come up with what your organization thinks. Like what I say doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Sure.
But like the content, if I'm running an email campaign and that email campaign has 6 links that go to the same place, I would have link 1 at the top would be like top body, right? And the one at the bottom of the body would be like lower body, or you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But at the same time, one of the things I've learned going back to keep it simple, that doesn't really matter unless you're running a big campaign. So if you have like footer logo, header logo, whatever, like what are you going to learn from that? Like what are you going to do? And that's where I think I push back a lot. And being in analytics for so long now, I mean, coming from Kissmetrics, and I literally run an analytics consulting firm, is the question is no longer can we track it and do we need to do this? The question is what the hell am I going to do with it? Now that I have the answer, why does it matter? And I have so many people that I work with, and I love all of my clients. My clients at times would be like, oh, I want to track this, I want to track that, I want to track that. But like, but what are you going to do with it? Well, because we need to know it in case of this. And I'm like, but really, are you going to do anything now that you know that this was clicked in the header? What are you going to do? And they're like, well, I know they click on the header. I'm like, well, cool. People always click on the header. What are you going to do next? Well, I could increase the header size. Oh, really? That's what your idea is, buddy? Like, so only focus on tracking it if you can make an outcome. So going to your point, if you're Macy's and you're running a 600 variant dynamic email, use UTMs all over the place. But you're not going to be, most people aren't that sophisticated. And by the way, Macy's is usually not so sophisticated either. They're pretty simple.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on the context and the outcome. That's pretty amazing. Hey, I want to respect your time. I know we're coming to the top of the hour and you have to go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Good reminder. You're fun.
Yeah. How can listeners connect with you online if they want to do so?
Yeah, easiest way to do it, go to LinkedIn, type in Dan McGaw. You'll find me on there eventually. I'm the one that comes up usually. So, but that's the easiest way. Or go to McGaw.io. There is no R in my name. MCGAW.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
You rock, buddy. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you in a minute.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.